4,600,000,000 years ago, a massive cosmic shockwave from a dying supernova violently destabilized a freezing dark interstellar molecular cloud. This catastrophic event triggered an instantaneous gravitational collapse, forcing the nebula to spin furiously into a die-flattening protoplanetary disk. While mainstream astronomy suggests this birth was entirely organized, newly generated space agency supercomputer dynamic models reveal a different reality. The earliest stage of our planetary nursery was actually a chaotic cosmic graveyard where dozens of massive worlds were obliterated before Earth formed. Advanced astrophysics proof shatters everything regarding our peaceful origin. What they saw next would change everything we thought we knew. The historical biography of our immediate cosmic domain officially originates 4,600,000,000 years ago, deep inside a freezing interstellar planetary nursery. During this ancient epoch, a massive sector of deep interstellar territory was entirely dominated by a colossal, silent molecular cloud composed of cold hydrogen gas, cosmic helium, and dense clumps of radioactive stardust left behind by deceased stellar ancestors. Observational cosmology establishes that this completely dark nebula experienced a sudden cataclysmic disruption due to an external physical force. A neighboring high-mass star reached the absolute end of its thermonuclear life cycle and detonated as a violent supernova explosion. This monumental outburst unleashed an incredibly powerful, energetic shockwave, traveling at supersonic velocities directly through the dark nebula. The extreme pressure generated by this incoming wave forced the giant cloud into an instantaneous gravitational collapse, triggering a rapid spinning motion. As angular momentum accelerated, the entire structure flattened symmetrically, creating a vast, rotating disk known as a protoplanetary disk. Centered deep within this hyper-dense swirling vortex, our infant central star began accumulating almost all surrounding matter. Modern observational astronomy provides empirical evidence regarding this highly turbulent formation epoch through advanced deep space telescopes and high-precision isotopic measurements of ancient chondrite meteorites. These primordial space rocks contain unique radioactive daughter elements and chemical anomalies that simply cannot be synthesized in a calm or organized environment. The hard data officially confirms that our system developed under conditions of extreme localized radiation and intense mechanical compression. Furthermore, advanced contemporary astrophysics reveals an even more startling evolutionary secret regarding our local star. Traditional planetary hypotheses assumed our solar parent developed in absolute isolation, but modern mathematical simulations of cluster star formation strongly indicate a completely different structural reality. Within the vast universe, nearly all sun-like stars are actually born as multiple stellar systems inside dense parental clusters. This mechanical reality underpins the compelling scientific hypothesis of Nemesis, a theoretical companion star born from the exact same primordial molecular mist. This lost twin shared the original protoplanetary disk, constantly pulling the early planetary building blocks with its massive gravitational field. Before any large modern worlds could establish permanent orbital configurations, extreme gravitational interactions and close flybys shattered the system. This giant disruption permanently ejected Nemesis out into the dark interstellar void, leaving our sun completely solitary. Following the sudden energetic collapse of the primordial nebula, the vast distribution of gas and dust spinning at the cold outer borders condensed at an incredible pace. Within this freezing peripheral zone, an immense accumulation of rocky fragments and thick gases rapidly consolidated to form the earliest massive planetary embryo. This hyper-accelerated structural evolution allowed the newborn gas giant, Jupiter, to develop first, devouring almost all local materials to establish an overwhelming gravitational presence across the cosmic neighborhood. Traditional historical hypotheses assumed that the major planets permanently maintained their current coordinates throughout history, developing in perfect isolation. However, Newly formalized supercomputer tracking models officially released by NASA violently shatter this peaceful perspective, introducing a revolutionary dynamic framework known to advanced astrophysics as the Grand Tack Hypothesis. This core theory demonstrates that the early architecture of our solar system was fundamentally driven by a violent, unpredictable planetary migration process. During the initial several 100,000 years of planetary development, the thick remainder of the original gas disk exerted an immense aerodynamic drag upon the spinning giant. Deprived of its original orbital velocity, the gargantuan planet was forced into a rapid inward spiral toward the center, embarking on a highly destructive invasion of the warm inner domain. The massive gas monster marched aggressively across open space until it reached a location just 1.5 astronomical units away from the central star. This extreme coordinate placed Jupiter directly at the precise region where Mars resides today, deep within the primary zone destined for terrestrial world formation. This sudden inward journey acted like a titanic cosmic wrecking ball, creating absolute structural chaos across local space. The overwhelming gravitational resonance of the invading giant systematically destabilized the stable circular paths of dozens of primitive rocky super-Earths that had developed early in the inner zone. Jupiter completely tore apart these pristine material belts, crushing early planetary embryos together through extreme scattering events and sending countless mangled fragments plunging directly into the burning star. The entire internal domain was turned into a depleted cosmic graveyard of shattered stone and vaporized debris. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Am I the only one who finds this unsettling? This colossal gravitational tyrant completely dominated local coordinates, vacuuming the remaining stardust and preventing any stable matter accretion near the star. The thick outer gas layers of the giant expanded significantly, casting a dark gravitational shadow that warped the orbital planes of remaining planetesimals. Every single primitive protoplanet within the internal sector faced complete structural liquidation under this immense tidal friction. The local space environment was rapidly approaching a terminal point of absolute barrenness, where the material blocks required to build long-term habited platforms were being permanently eradicated. This dark epoch demonstrates that star system evolution is dictated by intense, localized bow look rather than a gentle, progressive design. The wide universe operates through these raw, unforgiving mechanical forces, leaving whole planetary generations smashed into absolute nothingness before a single stable world can even establish a permanent path. The destructive onward march of Jupiter inward threatened to completely obliterate every possibility of future habitability in the internal zone. As the giant gas monster plowed deeper into the warm disk, it systematically crushed small celestial objects and completely cleared out the essential planetary raw materials. The entire internal region faced total structural annihilation. However, a massive counterforce was silently developing further out in the sub-zero darkness. The second gas giant, Saturn, was accumulating material at an incredible pace and rapidly growing large enough to exert its own significant gravitational presence. This celestial body quickly initiated its own rapid inward journey, mimicking the path of its larger predecessor and altering the mechanical stability of the system. The dangerous close proximity of these two giants soon triggered a profound physical phenomenon known to modern astronomy as orbital resonance. The smaller giant caught up to the larger giant, trapping both objects in a tight, synchronized mathematical loop. For every two complete revolutions executed around the star by Saturn, Jupiter completed exactly 3. This specific 2 to 3 orbital resonance created a massive gravitational tug-of-war, dramatically shifting the dense gas concentrations behind them. The immense backward pulling force generated by Saturn effectively locked onto the larger planet, acting as a cosmic emergency brake. This structural stabilization abruptly halted the inward migration of the larger world and initiated a dramatic outward retreat. This profound cosmic reversal forced both bodies to turn around and execute a massive dynamic exit back toward the fringe. This sudden, fateful reversal left behind a highly distinct, narrow and heavily stripped band of solid debris in the internal domain. This zone had been severely eroded by Jupiter during its initial devastating feast, leaving only a tiny fraction of the original planetary building blocks. Yet, it was from these exact isolated remnants that the internal system was saved. Over the subsequent several million years of constant collisions, this depleted ring of crushed stone and metallic grains began a slow accretion process. The remaining fragmented debris gradually consolidated to assemble the 4 minor rocky planets we document today: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Our planet was not born from a beautiful, abundant cradle of infinite resources. It is an accidental byproduct of survival, molded from the heavily scarred ruins that the gas giants left behind. Our existence is entirely a backup plan engineered by a fortunate cosmic coincidence. Understanding this violent transition through a cinematic science documentary completely reshapes our understanding of local history. When complex science is explained through empirical observation, we realize that the birth of planetary systems involves intense trauma. The absolute chaos that rearranged this sector illustrates that space structures evolve through immense physical stress. This mechanical realignment was essential because a peaceful configuration would have resulted in our matter being permanently pushed into the star. The delicate balance achieved after this grand migration allowed life to emerge on a fragile world. The temporary stabilization engineered by the migration of the gas giants did not signify a permanent end to celestial evolution. Beyond the inner domain, a massive structural tension was quietly escalating within the cold peripheral borders. Advanced mathematical data regarding celestial mechanics, formalized by researchers as the Nice model, exposes a completely inverted historical reality. During this primordial epoch, the original positions of the ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, were completely opposite to their modern configurations. Neptune actually developed significantly closer to the central star than Uranus, situated right inside a tightly packed outer planetary ring. This unconventional architecture meant that the entire peripheral system was structurally highly compressed, maintaining an extremely delicate and unstable gravitational equilibrium. This fragile structural balance collapsed completely several hundred million years later due to a slow, relentless gravitational synchronization. As the outer worlds interacted with the dense primordial planetesimal disk, their orbital mechanics shifted until Jupiter and Saturn established a 1-to-2 resonance. This precise alignment meant that for every single orbit completed by Saturn, Jupiter executed exactly 2 revolutions around the star. This unique gravitational coupling amplified the kinetic forces across space, unleashing a massive energetic kick that shattered the structural configuration of the outer sectors. The sudden amplification of gravitational energy completely destabilized the ice giants. Neptune was violently husted outward, bypassing Uranus and plunging directly into the pristine, frozen repository of the ancient Kuiper Belt. This explosive mechanical interaction immediately triggered a massive epoch of absolute destruction known as the Late Heavy Bombardment. As Neptune plowed aggressively through the dense outer ring, its immense gravitational field scattered billions of massive icy objects and primitive comets in every single direction. This disruption unleashed a relentless cosmic crossfire that inundated the entire internal system, turning local space into a chaotic battlefield. Billions of tons of sub-zero ice boulders and dense stones rocketed inward, colliding directly with the young rocky worlds. This extreme bow look scarred the faces of the inner planets, blasting millions of giant impact craters onto the surfaces of Earth and our Moon. Yet, this cataclysmic trauma was simultaneously a crucial mechanism for future habitability. While advanced space exploration analyzes these ancient lunar craters as dark remnants of a chaotic universe, this brutal bombardment carried the primary seeds of life. These primitive incoming ice comets were highly enriched with primordial water molecules and essential complex carbon components. This violent influx delivered the vast oceans and organic elements directly onto our planetary surface. Our vast blue seas were not natively generated from within. They were violently deposited from the frozen deep during an epoch of absolute mechanical breakdown. The ultimate structure of our habitat required immense structural destruction. Unlike the crushing density of black holes or the predictable micromechanics found in quantum physics, our local planetary architecture developed through a fragile sequence of massive dynamic accidents. The intense atmospheric bombardment from the outer sectors eventually subsided, allowing the reshaped internal orbits to achieve a temporary geological stillness. During this post-migration epoch, the primitive early Earth, scientifically designated as Gaia, began cooling down within its permanent orbital track. However, our world was destined to face its ultimate evolutionary trial. Sharing almost the exact same orbital path was a wandering sister planetesimal named Theia, a massive planetary embryo roughly the size of modern Mars. This celestial body maintained an unstable trajectory for several million years until a sudden gravitational disturbance forced it into a direct terminal path. The planetesimal advanced relentlessly, triggering a catastrophic head-on collision that completely shattered both young worlds. Empirical validation for this terrifying historical event originates directly from physical material retrieved during historic lunar exploration initiatives. Laboratory spectroscopy, analyzing pristine moon rock samples from international archives, confirms a perfect identical match in oxygen isotope ratios compared directly with terrestrial mantle chemistry. This extreme molecular precision validates the famous giant impact hypothesis, proving our satellite is not an independent body. What would you feel if you saw this with your own eyes? Let me know below what struck you the most. The mechanical consequence of this unprecedented physical impact immediately transformed local non-space territory into a sea of liquid fire. The titanic energetic release completely vaporized the rocky outer crusts of both planetary bodies, launching a massive ring of superheated vaporized debris into orbit. Deep within the melting core, the dense iron heart of the colliding planetesimal sank through the molten liquid to merge permanently with Earth's internal center. This massive metallic infusion drastically increased our planet's mass and density, creating the immense churning dynamo that generates our protective magnetic shield. Without this crucial field, powerful solar winds would have permanently stripped away our fragile atmosphere, preventing any potential development of advanced alien life across the surface. Simultaneously, the vast ring of vaporized rocky material orbiting the planetary wreckage slowly cooled down, condensing over several centuries to assemble our moon. This brutal cosmic crime was absolutely mandatory for our modern survival. Without this violent cosmic collision, Earth would lack the stable 23.5-degree axial tilt that generates our predictable seasonal cycles. Furthermore, our world would have no powerful oceanic stabilities or steady rotational velocity, creating an environment where complex human civilization could never exist. While modern aerospace innovators like SpaceX engineering teams build machines to pierce the upper atmosphere, and theoretical thinkers research the physics of a multidimensional multiverse, the ultimate blueprint of our origin remains anchored to this ancient battlefield. We are the direct biological product of a massive planetary resurrection. As we pull our analytical focus away from those violent interplanetary collisions and return to the quiet, serene orbit of our modern era, a profound realignment of perspective occurs. I look at our stable blue oceans and calm atmospheric boundaries today, realizing that this peaceful scenery is a deeply deceptive illusion. The physical history we discovered unearths a startling reality. Every single breath of oxygen we take, and every precious drop of water sustaining our terrestrial ecosystems, was paid for by the absolute destruction of an entire first-generation planetary architecture. Our current environment is not a guaranteed outcome of natural stability. It is a lucky statistical miracle engineered inside a volatile cosmic furnace. The matter composing our bodies floated through deep space as discarded debris from ancient stellar deaths, surviving the savage clearing event of Jupiter, the orbital displacement of Neptune, and the crushing impact of Theia. This mechanical journey shifts our core position from insignificance to profound empowerment. We are not separate from the violent forces that rearranged this sector. We are their direct biological remnants. The intense structural stress that pulverized primitive super-Earths and fractured early horizons was the exact mechanism required to isolate the precise raw materials necessary for human evolution. Our local environment developed through an incredible sequence of fragile, random synchronization. This scientific truth demonstrates that creation and annihilation are completely inseparable parameters inside cosmic evolution. Traumatic structural breakdown is frequently the fundamental prerequisite for advanced biological development. When we analyze the deep remnants of local evolutionary history through precise mathematical models and physical astrophysics data, the true scope of our existence becomes clear. Our current understanding of stellar mechanisms proves that nature operates through intense transitions rather than perpetual harmony. The absolute chaos that forged our homeworld should not inspire cosmic terror, but rather a profound sense of hope and immense purpose. We are the conscious universe, looking back at the scarred battlefields of its own primitive dawn, seeking order within the dark architecture of infinity. Every anomaly we document, and every new model that shatters our historical assumptions, brings us closer to deciphering the grand cosmic blueprint. The planetary network we observe reflects a brilliant structural triumph born directly from catastrophic historical movements. We must recognize that our delicate habitat is a beautiful monument assembled on an ancient cosmic battlefield, proving that out of total physical devastation, life can ultimately master the stars. The universe isn't broken. Our map of it is just incomplete. What do you think? Does this change how you see our place in the cosmos? I'll keep exploring if there's more to uncover. Thank you so very much for watching. The universe is full of terrifying yet beautiful mysteries, and exploring them together makes this journey incredible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark cosmos, please subscribe and leave a comment below. I will keep exploring. See you all next time. Humanity has successfully launched complex voyages billions of miles horizontally to capture clear photographs of Pluto at the edge of our disk. Why then is a vertical journey straight up or down out of this flat planetary plane considered completely impossible for modern spacecraft? What hidden physical force dictates that our advanced rockets can easily fly to distant frozen worlds, but are entirely paralyzed when trying to climb vertically? The answer is tied to a silent dynamic trap, an invisible velocity cell that binds all human technology to a single flat disk. What they saw next would change everything we thought we knew about the flat boundaries of our local cosmic neighborhood. The fundamental laws governing celestial mechanics dictate that no object in our local universe exists in a state of absolute rest. Right now, the freezing rock beneath our feet is hurtling through the dark void at a staggering velocity of 30 kilometers per second, which translates to roughly 67,000 miles per hour. This monumental physical fact is not an abstract concept, but a continuous, unyielding mechanical reality that permanently dictates the fate of every biological organism bound to our world. To grasp why this sideways speed is a giant trap, think about standing on a high-speed bullet train rushing down dark tracks. If you jump straight up inside that moving vehicle, you do not smash into the back wall because you are already moving forward at the exact same speed as the train. The exact same rule applies to our planet and outer space. Because we are riding on this spinning cosmic carousel, every machine built by NASA or SpaceX is already flying sideways at 30 kilometers per second before its engines even ignite. When engineering agencies fire up a massive rocket, the vehicle does not start from a clean, stationary position in the void. Instead, it carries the heavy horizontal momentum of the Earth as a permanent cosmic inheritance. This hidden sideways movement acts like a powerful leash, tying our technology to the flat planetary disk that all major worlds occupy. If we want to visit Mars or Jupiter, this automatic sideways movement is a beautiful gift because it does most of the hard work for us, pushing our spaceships along the planetary highway. However, the moment a spacecraft attempts a vertical exit straight up or down out of this flat disk, that helpful horizontal velocity instantly turns into a brutal, invisible wall. Advanced astrophysics shows that to change your direction from horizontal to perfectly vertical, you cannot just point a rocket upward and fly away. A spacecraft must first produce enough power to completely cancel out that 30 kilometers per second of sideways motion it inherited from Earth. This is the exact same feeling as trying to drive a car straight sideways while you are already sliding on ice at high speed. Burning fuel to completely stop this massive sideways momentum is why a vertical flight requires vastly more energy than a trip to the outer edge of the solar system. This planetary speed trap effectively locks us inside a flat cage made of pure kinetic energy. Our chemical rockets are fundamentally paralyzed by this hidden physical barrier, meaning the vast cosmic wilderness directly above and below our local disk remains a dark, unmapped territory. This restriction shatters our illusion of human technological dominance, forcing us into a state of deep curiosity about what unknown cosmic secrets are waiting just beyond our reach in those clean, vertical polar skies. To understand how our flat planetary cage is mathematically locked, we must look at the brutal rules of rocket science. In astronomy and space exploration, missions are not measured by physical distance, but by a vital concept known as delta V, which means the total change in velocity a spacecraft must generate using its own engines. The mathematical foundation of cosmology and aerospace engineering relies on the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation. This law reveals a harsh reality. As you need more velocity, the required fuel mass does not just increase steadily, it grows exponentially. Every extra kilogram of fuel you add requires even more fuel just to lift that fuel off the launch pad, creating a vicious cycle that dictates the limits of our exploration. This harsh mathematical law explains why escaping our flat cosmic disk vertically is a nearly suicidal mission for any spacecraft. When agencies like NASA or SpaceX send a probe to Mars, the spacecraft only needs a delta V of about 4 kilometers per second from Earth orbit. This is because the probe is already riding the Earth's massive horizontal speed, needing only a tiny extra push to slide along the planetary plane. However, if we want to fly perfectly straight up, perpendicular to our solar system, the numbers become terrifying. To cancel out our horizontal motion and climb vertically, a spacecraft requires a staggering delta V of roughly 30 kilometers per second. This is nearly 10 times the energy needed to reach Mars, turning a simple change of direction into an engineering nightmare. This immense difference exposes a shocking truth about our universe explained through physics. Reaching Pluto, which sits over 3 billion miles away, requires vastly less energy than reaching a point just a few million miles directly above the pole of our Sun. The technical consequences of this math are devastating for modern science. No chemical rocket or nuclear engine in existence can carry enough fuel to cancel our 30 kilometers per second sideways motion without becoming too heavy to ever leave the ground. If you built a rocket large enough to hold that massive fuel load, the weight of the propellant itself would crush the vehicle, making liftoff completely impossible. What would you feel if you saw this invisible kinetic wall with your own eyes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Am I the only one who finds this delta V tyranny unsettling? This mathematical barrier leaves us stranded in a vast sea of dark cosmos, reminding us that our greatest machines are profoundly humbled by basic geometry. We can look up at the infinite stars, but our mathematics keeps us firmly pinned to the flat horizontal line of our birth. This absolute restriction replaces our grand dreams of cosmic freedom with a deep, haunting sense of isolation, proving that we are trapped in a magnificent, flat prison designed by the laws of nature themselves. To fully comprehend why our cosmic prison is so perfectly flat, we must travel back in time to the very birth of our planetary neighborhood. 4,600,000,000 years ago, our solar system did not exist as the structured family of worlds we see today. Instead, it was nothing more than a giant, chaotic cloud of interstellar gas and cold molecular hydrogen dust floating in the deep, dark void. Triggered by a distant disturbance, this massive, disorganized nebula began to collapse inward under the immense crush of its own gravity. As the cloud grew smaller and denser, a fundamental law of physics took complete control of its ultimate destiny. a principle known as the conservation of angular momentum. This physics law dictates that as a spinning object shrinks, it must spin vastly faster to balance its energy, much like a figure skater pulling their arms inward to spin rapidly on ice. As the giant hydrogen cloud collapsed, its slow, random rotation accelerated into a furious, raging cosmic whirlpool. The intense centrifugal force generated by this extreme speed pushed material outward at the equator, while gravity continued to pull everything inward at the poles. Through this violent cosmic struggle, the giant three-dimensional cloud flattened out, transforming into a giant, thin protoplanetary disk. The center of this spinning structure ignited to form our Sun, while the remaining flat rings of dust gradually clumped together over millions of years to create the Earth and all neighboring planets. Because of this ancient evolutionary process, the entire solar system became a permanent, flat celestial highway. Every planet, asteroid, and piece of cosmic dust is forced to swim along this single flat track known as the ecliptic plane. This flat architecture is the beautiful science explained through the history of our universe. When we launch a rocket today, we are not just fighting the gravity of Earth, we are actively wrestling with a physical legacy that was set in stone 4,600,000,000 years ago. Attempting a vertical escape straight up or straight down means you are launching a solitary rebellion against the accumulated angular momentum of our entire planetary disk. This historical reality fills us with deep awe, revealing that the flat geometry of our space exploration is dictated by the ancient movements of primordial gas clouds. We are small, fragile observers riding on a thin disk shaped by ancient gravity, looking out into a vast universe that has kept us spinning on the same flat line for billions of years. This profound connection to the ancient past shows that our technology is deeply bound by cosmic history, turning our flat journey into an epic space documentary written by the laws of nature. We remain trapped on this ancient disk, wondering if we will ever possess the power to break free from this multi-billion-year-old momentum and finally look down at our home from above. To break free from our flat planetary prison, aerospace engineers cannot rely on traditional launch methods. Instead, orbital mechanics and astrophysics offer a solution that sounds completely insane and counterintuitive. To climb straight up out of the flat solar disk, a spacecraft must first choose to dive straight down into the blazing fire of our star. This desperate flight path relies on a profound principle written down in 1929 by the physics pioneer Hermann Oberth. The Oberth effect dictates that a rocket engine is dramatically more efficient when it is fired at the absolute highest speed possible inside a deep gravitational well. By letting a spacecraft fall freely toward the Sun, it accelerates under immense solar gravity until it reaches an extreme velocity at perihelion, its closest approach. Firing the engines at this exact moment converts chemical fuel into a massive amount of kinetic energy, far surpassing what the same fuel could achieve in empty space. This dangerous dive turns the deepest gravity well of our solar system into a high-speed slingshot launch pad. The mathematical precision required for this maneuver creates intense technical tension. If the spacecraft fires its engines even a few seconds too early or too late, the fragile trajectory will fail, throwing the vehicle into the infinite void or plunging it directly into the solar furnace. This terrifying maneuver is the ultimate high-stakes gamble in space exploration, where human mathematics directly battles the supreme power of a star. By burning fuel at maximum velocity, the spacecraft can finally generate the extreme force needed to bend its orbital path 90 degrees away from the planetary plane, allowing it to climb vertically toward the unexplored solar poles. However, executing this maneuver introduces a terrifying hidden engineering challenge that has never been fully told in a standard space documentary. At perihelion, the spacecraft must survive the brutal environment of the solar corona, where temperatures scream at millions of degrees. The vehicle must be shielded by an advanced carbon-carbon heat deflector, similar to the technology protecting the famous Parker Solar Probe. The ultimate life-or-death crisis is propellant thermal protection. Engineers must keep the highly volatile liquid fuel inside the tanks perfectly chilled, while the outside of the spacecraft faces a blinding cosmic inferno. If the intense solar radiation heats the fuel tanks by even a fraction of a degree, the propellant will rapidly boil, causing the entire vehicle to violently detonate. This extreme environment pushes our understanding of material science to its absolute limits, touching the edge of quantum physics regarding how atoms behave under supreme thermal stress. The sheer scale of the danger feels as unsettling as approaching the event horizon of black holes, where the laws of nature threaten to crush all human technology. We are left in breathless suspense, watching a fragile robotic scout plunge into a blinding star just to earn the right to look at our universe from above. If diving directly into the solar furnace feels too dangerous, aerospace engineers have designed a second, remarkably elegant solution to escape our flat planetary prison. This revolutionary method bypasses heavy chemical engines entirely, relying instead on the pure, silent mechanics of solar sails. Conceptual mission profiles, such as the proposed solar polar imager, plan to utilize giant, highly reflective metallic sheets spanning thousands of square meters. These structures are incredibly thin, built to catch the continuous stream of light particles, called photons, pouring out from our star. This technology transforms space exploration by turning the basic emission of sunlight into a permanent cosmic propulsion system. The underlying physics of this mechanism is brilliantly simple and completely propellantless. Although photons possess zero resting mass, they carry momentum, and when they strike the massive mirror-like sail, they transfer that momentum directly to the spacecraft. This gentle, constant pressure from sunlight creates a tiny but endless acceleration that requires no onboard fuel reservoirs. By precisely angling the giant sail in deep space, mission controllers can steadily alter the orbital inclination of the vehicle over several years. This persistent photonic push slowly but surely bends the spacecraft away from the flat ecliptic plane, breaking the multi-billion-year-old momentum that traps our world. This continuous journey across the cold void leads to the ultimate engineering combination, merging the gentle sail with the Bowliot-Oberth maneuver. A spacecraft can first deploy its massive metallic sail to slowly spiral inward toward the sun, gathering tremendous orbital velocity as it sinks deeper into the gravitational well. Once the vehicle reaches its absolute closest approach at perihelion, it fires a compact rocket engine to trigger a massive kinetic surge. This explosive combination of solar sail momentum and maximum gravity well efficiency gives the craft the supreme energy needed to shoot straight up into the vertical universe. The sail then continues to ride the solar wind outward, guiding the robotic scout high above the solar poles. This incredible concept sparks deep curiosity, filling us with absolute amazement at how human intelligence can turn simple sunlight into a cosmic paddle. We are learning to navigate the deep, dark cosmos without burning heavy planetary resources, finding brilliant new discoveries by cooperating with the natural laws of our star. This elegant approach provides great hope for future voyages across neighboring galaxies, proving that our species is capable of transcending its flat planetary birth. It challenges our understanding of distance, making us wonder if light itself will eventually carry our legacy beyond this solar system, perhaps even into the theoretical boundaries of the multiverse. We watch in profound awe as these silver wings prepare to conquer the vertical frontier. Once a spacecraft successfully breaks through the invisible wall of our planetary disk, it enters a realm of unparalleled clarity. For billions of years, the flat plane of the planets has been choked by a thick haze of microscopic cosmic dust, left behind by ancient comet tails and grinding asteroids. This dirty cloud scatters sunlight, creating a faint, hazy glow known to earthbound astronomy as the zodiacal light. However, as the robotic explorer climbs high above the solar equator, it leaves this cosmic fog behind within a few months. The space directly above and below the sun is a pristine, crystal-clear wilderness, completely free from the obscuring debris that blinds our terrestrial instruments. This clean vantage point provides the ultimate, undisturbed location to position advanced deep space telescopes. From this untainted vertical position, astronomers can peer into the deep cosmos with revolutionary precision, searching for the faint atmospheric chemical signatures of alien life around distant stars. Without the blinding interference of local dust, sensitive sensors can map the cosmic microwave background radiation with flawless accuracy, unlocking the secrets of early cosmology. This pristine vantage point offers a masterclass in the universe explained, giving us a completely transparent window into the grand structure of neighboring galaxies. As the probe ascends further into this vertical frontier, it directly encounters the unique physics of the solar polar regions. The spacecraft leaves the turbulent, slow plasma winds of the equator and dives through giant magnetic openings known as polar coronal holes. Here, the vehicle bathes in the fast solar wind, a steady, smooth stream of highly energetic particles flowing outward at a blistering speed of 700 to 800 kilometers per second. Riding this powerful stellar current, the craft looks back down at its birthplace, witnessing a breathtaking view that has never been captured in human history. The entire solar system is laid out below like a magnificent, spinning flat plate, with the sun burning brightly at the center and the planetary rings hugging the dusty plain. Let me know below what struck you the most about this pristine vertical wilderness. Would you bet on the slow solar sail or the violent O-berth dive? This majestic sight transitions our feelings from deep suspense to absolute awe, providing a serene resolution to our difficult cosmic journey. We are finally seeing our home planet, not from the inside looking out, but from above looking down, realizing how small our flat world truly is. This unblemished perspective changes everything we understand about celestial geometry, proving that the true majesty of our cosmos can only be realized when we dare to step off the flat line of our birth. We stand in quiet contemplation, humbled by this magnificent cosmic architecture, realizing that our small species has finally earned the right to view its home from the eternal heights of the vertical universe. Escaping our 30 kilometers per second prison allows us to look down at our flat planetary home. For generations, our entire view of the cosmos has been trapped along a single horizontal line. Rising vertically is the ultimate step to finally mapping the true shape of the massive heliosphere bubble protecting us. This missing photograph will complete our local galactic portrait. The universe isn't broken. Our map of it is just incomplete. What do you think? Does this change how you see our place in the cosmos? I'll keep exploring if there's more to uncover. Thanks for watching. How long could an unprotected human being actually survive on every single planet in our solar system? On the crushing volcanic surface of Venus, the realistic answer is exactly 1 second before thermodynamic forces obliterate your biological structure completely. While Earth provides a perfect sanctuary with precise atmospheric parameters that seamlessly sustain our complex life, the remaining 7 worlds deliver immediate, physics-driven death sentences. The raw facts of planetary science violently shatter all comfortable assumptions about space exploration. What they saw next would change everything we thought we knew. Mercury is the closest world to our central star, and if a human stepped onto its rocky surface without protection, the actual survival time would be only 60 to 90 seconds. The real reason behind this incredibly short window is the total absence of air. Mercury possesses no meaningful atmosphere to surround its rocky floor, which effectively transforms the planetary surface into a massive, empty vacuum chamber deeper than anything achievable in a high-tech Earth laboratory. Without any surrounding environmental pressure to contain your biology, a destructive sequence of physical events begins immediately. The biological consequences of this complete vacuum focus primarily on rapid suffocation and gas expansion. Because there is no external atmospheric pressure pressing against your body, the gases dissolved in your bloodstream and soft tissues violently escape out of solution. Oxygen molecules inside your blood are forcefully pulled backward across the lung membranes and exhaled into the void of space. Simultaneously, dissolved nitrogen and carbon dioxide form rapidly expanding gas bubbles inside your veins, blocking normal circulation and causing your subcutaneous tissues to swell up to twice their ordinary size. This internal expansion is deeply unsettling, yet it is not the fastest killer. The human brain is exquisitely sensitive to oxygen starvation, and within a mere 14 seconds, the deoxygenated blood reaches your cerebral vessels, causing a total loss of consciousness. You faint rapidly before your heart stops pumping completely inside your altered cardiovascular system. Additional planetary factors complicate this hostile wasteland, though they operate too slowly to change your primary timeline of death. The thermal environment on Mercury represents a massive cosmic paradox. On the sun-facing side, intense solar radiation elevates the ground temperature to 430 degrees Celsius, a blistering heat wave that triggers instantaneous 4th-degree burns and ignites ordinary clothing upon proximity. Conversely, on the night side, the temperature crashes down to -180 degrees Celsius, an extreme cryogenic void that freezes exposed flesh solid within seconds. However, the direct physics of a vacuum operate with such rapid urgency that you will perish from total oxygen deprivation and sudden depressurization long before your body has time to realize the extreme heat or the freezing cold. Furthermore, you will experience this violent transition in absolute terrifying silence. Sickness and death arrive without a single sound because a vacuum contains no air molecules to vibrate, meaning waves cannot travel, and your final scream disappears completely inside your throat. Venus is often described as the twin sister of Earth, but if a human being descended toward its brilliant clouds without a spacesuit, the actual survival time would be exactly 1 second. The definitive reasons behind this near-instantaneous destruction are the overwhelming air pressure and the extreme, uniform surface heat. Unlike worlds that destroy life through gradual starvation or freezing voids, this greenhouse planet acts as a hyper-compressed thermal weapon, rejecting biological structures with immense physical presence. The moment you cross the atmospheric threshold, multiple environmental forces dismantle your biology simultaneously. The biological consequences of this landscape focus entirely on massive mechanical crushing and thermal coagulation. The monster atmosphere of Venus consists of 96.5% carbon dioxide, packed into an incredibly dense global blanket. This super-heavy gas column presses down onto the terrain with a crushing force of 9.3 megapascals. For a human body calibrated to the comfortable sea-level baseline of Earth, this experience represents an immediate weight of approximately 100 tons directly compressing your chest wall. Within less than a single chirp mart, your skeleton suffers total structural failure as your rib cage fractures violently inward and your lungs are driven completely flat. Normal respiration and cardiovascular resistance are rendered mathematically impossible in less than 1 second. Simultaneously, a relentless wave of thermal energy completes the terminal execution. Driven by the most powerful greenhouse effect in our solar system, the surface temperature maintains a permanent, hellish uniformity of 465 degrees Celsius. Under this severe weight, the water content inside your cells cannot flash boil into steam. Instead, the trapped internal fluids transform into highly effective thermal conductors, rapidly cooking all soft tissues and structural proteins from the inside out. Your internal biology undergoes a destructive phase shift known as coagulation necrosis, causing structural cells to solidify instantly like an egg inside a boiling pot. This rapid chemical decomposition mimics the extreme interior conditions of an industrial cremate furnace. Corrosive sulfuric acid droplets present in the upper atmosphere never have the opportunity to dissolve your outer skin, because physical crushing and internal liquefaction conclude the timeline of survival long before chemical corrosion can even begin. Historical data collected by robotic explorers permanently emphasizes this brutal reality. During the height of space exploration, the Soviet Union launched the historic Venera program, sending heavily reinforced titanium vessels to survive this toxic abyss. Venera 7 landed in 1970, transmitting Ventrock data for only 23 minutes before the crushing atmosphere and intense heat waves destroyed its instruments. Years later, Venera 13 set a planetary record by enduring the surface for exactly 127 minutes before its pre-cooled electronic systems completely melted into liquid. A metal machine engineered for cosmic stress lasted only 2 hours, highlighting the ultimate fragility of unprotected flesh. What would you feel if you saw this extreme greenhouse destruction with your own eyes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Mars is the most psychologically treacherous destination in our solar system, but if you step onto its rusty soil unprotected, your realistic survival time is incredibly short, lasting only from 60 to 90 seconds. The true physical reason behind this rapid execution is an extraordinarily thin air pressure that sits far below the critical thermodynamic threshold known as the Armstrong limit. While high-resolution planetary photographs transmitted by advanced robotic rovers show a beautiful landscape resembling the desert plains of Utah, the visual environment is a complete illusion. The atmospheric weight of the red planet is less than 1% of the sea level baseline found on Earth, offering no meaningful containment for human biology. The direct biological consequences of this massive pressure drop manifest as rapid cellular vaporization and oxygen starvation. At the Martian surface pressure of only 636 pascals, the boiling point of liquid water drops below 37 degrees Celsius, which is the exact normal temperature of the human body. Consequently, moisture on your soft biological tissues undergoes an immediate phase transition. The wet surfaces of your eyes, the saliva on your tongue, and the vital fluids lining your mangfor begin to boil aggressively at your own body heat, while your thick skin and muscular blood vessels provide enough internal structural resistance to prevent your blood from boiling inside your veins. Your subcutaneous tissues will swell severely as trapped water transitions into gas bubbles. Additional toxic components exacerbate this atmospheric failure, preventing any possibility of traditional respiration. The thin gas mixture consists almost entirely of carbon dioxide, which floods your respiratory tract and drives your blood balance into a severe state of suffocating acidosis. Furthermore, the fine Martian dust contains roughly 1% toxic perchlorate salts, highly destructive oxidizing agents that chemically corrode your delicate breathing pathways upon inhalation. However, these biochemical attacks operate too slowly to dictate your ultimate survival timeline. Because the surrounding pressure is too thin to force oxygen across your lung membranes, your arterial oxygen supply plummets to zero. Your brain consumes its remaining oxygen reserves within a mere 14 seconds, triggering a total loss of consciousness. You faint into a deep coma before your primary cardiovascular system collapses completely within 90 seconds. I looked closely at NASA's red planet charts, and the physical reality is simple. Mars looks like a home, but acts like an executioner. The planet wraps its extreme hostility inside an illusion of habitability, yet its thin air destroys human cells on a strict mathematical schedule. Your soft tissue freezes and dries simultaneously under the global average temperature of -60 degrees Celsius, creating a frozen mummy that remains preserved in the thin vacuum for centuries. Robotic explorers survive decades on this terrain because metal structures do not possess internal liquids that boil at 37 degrees, nor do they require a continuous molecular stream of oxygen to preserve their mechanical consciousness. Human biology remains fundamentally incompatible with this desert world. Jupiter is the towering titan of our solar system, but if you were placed inside its turbulent atmosphere unprotected, you would experience a total loss of consciousness within a mere 10 to 15 seconds. Survival on this colossal gas giant is completely impossible. The real physical reason behind this terrifying scenario is that Jupiter possesses no solid surface to stand on. There is no bedrock, no soil, and no defining boundary where the sky ends. Instead, the planet is an endless, bottomless pit of gas, and its massive gravitational field will pull your body into a permanent, terminal descent through an increasingly compressed environment. The biological consequences of this chaotic plunge occur in rapid, devastating stages driven by severe motion and atmospheric smothering. Because the gravitational pull of Jupiter is 2.5 times stronger than the baseline of Earth, your body accelerates into an extremely fast freefall, reaching a terminal velocity of up to 250 meters per second. As you drop through the freezing upper decks composed of ammonia clouds, you attempt to breathe, but the surrounding atmosphere contains only molecular hydrogen and helium. These gases are completely non-toxic but biologically useless for human respiration. Without any molecular oxygen to sustain your internal metabolism, cerebral oxygen starvation plummets your brain into a state of total anoxia, causing you to faint within 15 seconds. While you drift deeper in a state of total unconsciousness, the surrounding physics continues its aggressive campaign of destruction. As your body sinks roughly 100 kilometers below the initial cloud decks, the ambient air pressure spikes dramatically, violently surpassing the extreme threshold of 100 bar. This immense mechanical crushing force is equivalent to the deep ocean limits on Earth, completely overwhelming your semi-rigid skeleton. Your ribcage fractures inward, and your lungs collapse flat, causing absolute mechanical death within a few minutes. As the corpse continues its relentless journey downward over the following hours, the ambient temperature rises into thousands of degrees Celsius, completely dissolving the remaining organic matter until your individual molecules are permanently absorbed into the planet's metallic hydrogen ocean. Real aerospace telemetry data collected by cosmic missions emphasizes this bottomless hostility. In December 1995, the hardened Galileo atmospheric probe plunged into this exact environment. This heavily reinforced titanium machine was engineered specifically to withstand cosmic stress, yet it endured the mounting temperature and mounting pressure for only 57.6 minutes before its advanced communication systems were permanently crushed and melted. A reinforced metal creation from the National Space Agency lasted under 1 hour, proving that soft human architecture stands no mathematical chance against the Colossus. Saturn is famous for its majestic planetary rings, but if a human entered its cold atmosphere unprotected, you would lose consciousness in 15 seconds, and your mechanical body would be completely destroyed after 15 to 25 minutes. The real reasons behind this brutal timeline are the extreme cryogenic cold of its ammonia skies and permanent hypersonic storms. Unlike the massive gravitational urgency found on Jupiter, this ringed giant possesses a surface gravity nearly identical to Earth, measuring only 6% higher. Consequently, your unprotected body falls much slower, shifting the cosmic execution from an immediate crushing impact into a prolonged, terrifying struggle against extreme weather conditions. The biological consequences of this slower plunge involve rapid tissue freezing and severe wind bombardment. As you fall through the upper troposphere, you encounter a severe cold front measuring -178 degrees Celsius. This immense thermal differential extracts heat from your flesh instantly, causing rapid frostbite and crystallization of moisture inside your primary airways within mere seconds. Simultaneously, you drop directly into a chaotic wind field where permanent equatorial jet streams blow at a permanent velocity of 1,800 kilometers per hour. This extreme velocity approaches transonic speeds and carries immense kinetic force. The violent air current strips your regular clothing away and subjects your freezing skin to continuous friction, turning the descent into a highly painful, uninsulated gauntlet before total oxygen starvation shuts down your brain function completely. As your unconscious form sinks deeper over a quarter of an hour, the mounting air pressure gradually accumulates toward a critical structural threshold. At a depth spanning hundreds of kilometers, the atmospheric weight surpasses 5 bar, completely collapsing your internal respiratory organs and causing final biological death. However, the deepest interior layers of Saturn harbor a spectacular cosmic irony. Under the extreme compression of the lower atmosphere, molecules of gas like methane are severely crushed, breaking their chemical bonds to crystallize carbon Gwenchart directly into solid diamonds. These glittering gemstones fall continuously through the dense gas as a permanent storm of diamond rain. Your frozen, non-functional remains will sink seamlessly alongside thousands of tons of falling diamonds, drifting through the dark interior until you reach the highly compressed metallic hydrogen core of the planet. Uranus and Neptune are the twin ice giants positioned at the furthest frozen margins of our planetary neighborhood, and if an unshielded human fell into their deep cloud decks, the actual survival time would be only 20 to 40 seconds. The true scientific reasons behind this rapid timeline are the extreme phenomenon of flash freezing and the terrifying mechanical power of planetary winds. Moving away from the dense, heavy environments of the inner worlds, physics changes its primary weapon at this immense distance. These gas realms eliminate any trace of molecular oxygen, replacing traditional warmth with a severe thermal gradient that shatters unprotected human biology on a strict mathematical schedule. The biological consequences of entering Uranus focus entirely on immediate cellular destruction through absolute cold. The temperature at the upper cloud tops climbs no higher than -224 degrees Celsius, a cryogenic void that is significantly colder than liquid nitrogen. The moment you enter this hydrogen and methane atmosphere, the steep thermal differential triggers rapid flash freezing across all exposed tissue surfaces. Water inside your cells does not have time to gradually cool. Instead, it turns to solid ice instantaneously, forming sharp crystalline structures that violently expand and tear apart cell walls from the inside out. Your eyes, lips, and respiratory tract harden in a matter of moments, transforming your entire muscular and skeletal body into a highly brittle mass resembling fragile glass in only 4 seconds. While Uranus executes a silent cryogenic death, Neptune delivers a highly violent final choke to the physical organism. The outermost world runs on strong internal heat engines, driving its pale blue atmosphere into a permanent state of supersonic chaos. The winds on Neptune move at a permanent velocity of 2,100 kilometers per hour, a transonic flow that is substantially faster than a bullet fired from a handgun. This extreme wind does not travel alone. It carries millions of microscopic methane and ammonia ice particles entrained in the current. After your biological systems collapse from complete air suffocation and tissue freezing during the first 30 seconds, these hypersonic ice shards execute a devastating physical process. The rushing current acts as a powerful space sandblast machine, continuously striking your brittle, glass-like corpse with immense kinetic energy until it completely erodes and tears the frozen remains into millions of tiny crystal fragments drifting in the void. Am I the only one who finds this mechanical destruction of a frozen body deeply unsettling? Let me know below. This comprehensive exploration of our planetary neighborhood provides a definitive, sobering truth about the nature of human biology. The wider universe contains absolutely no room for error, as these 7 individual worlds function as precise cosmic executioners, operated by entirely indifferent equations of mathematical physics. From the boiling vacuum of Mercury and the crushing mechanical furnace of Venus to the frozen transonic sandblast storms of Neptune, planetary science highlights a severe reality. Biological survival outside our home planet is entirely impossible without advanced technology. However, pulling our cosmic perspective back to Earth reveals a brilliant, unparalleled masterpiece of natural engineering. Our beautiful planet is a perfect sanctuary that threads a miraculous needle in space exploration, opening 5 critical survival shields simultaneously. Earth continuously delivers an atmospheric weight of exactly 101.3 kilopascals, providing the precise pressure required to hold our internal fluids liquid. It supplies an atmosphere rich in 21% molecular oxygen to seamlessly power our metabolism. It projects a strong global dynamo-magnetic field, coordinated with a thick stratospheric ozone layer to permanently deflect destructive solar winds and lethal radiation flux. Finally, it maintains a stable surface gravity of exactly 1 GeV, which is the precise framework around which every bone, muscle, and blood vessel in human biology was structured. Recognizing this perfect alignment forces a profound transition from deep cosmic dread into immense gratitude and hope. This delicate balance is not an act of celestial design, but a rare parametric coincidence that allowed chemistry to evolve into complex consciousness. The cold arithmetic of space does not represent an absolute boundary to our scientific intelligence, but a profound invitation to expand our knowledge. The universe isn't broken. Our map of it is just incomplete. Every harsh limit we measure simply points toward the next great door of technological discovery. What do you think? Does this change how you see our place in the cosmos? I'll keep exploring if there's more to uncover. Thank you so very much for watching. The universe is full of terrifying yet beautiful mysteries, and exploring them together makes this journey incredible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark cosmos, please subscribe and leave a comment below. I will keep exploring. See you all next time.